My mother and father both worked for approximately 35 years. But in 2 years after their retirement and after my sister's wedding, we exhausted their life savings. We are left with zero money. And I kept wondering, how is this possible? Today I'm going to share that reason and also my 20 years of investment learnings in the theme Seeds of Change and the topic why and how learning to invest early can change the fortune of your life. I was fortunate to have born to a loving, caring, and humble parents. My mother used to be a teacher in a government school, and my father used to work in a semi-government company. All six of us, including my grandparents, used to live in a 300 square feet house in Villeparle East. My childhood memories are of the money was always a struggle. Money is always a scarcity. My home and my education studies was only possible due to loan from the family members, banks, and NBFCs. After 7 years of working in NBFC and consumer industry, I shifted my job to an investment industry. The seeds of change began to happen for me when I decided to do certified financial planning studies. The CFP studies are practical in nature, and it is recommended that we implement these learnings to our clients' portfolio. Instead, I decided to implement those learnings in my family investments. Trust me, it took me more than 2 months to collate all the investment details in a financial Excel, because in those days, there was nothing digital. Everything was physical. And when I put all that together, what I found that 50% of our money was invested into LIC endowment policies and all tax-related insurance policies. The balance 50% was invested into cooperative banks and post office instruments. In the retirement planning module, I learned the basic, yet the most powerful concept, the purchasing power of money. It means returns in your hand post-inflation. When I applied this purchasing power of money to my family investments, I realized that none of the investment actually beat inflation, and therefore our wealth never grew. In fact, in the 35 years, our purchasing power of money kept diminishing instead of increasing. And therefore, there's no surprise that in 2 years after my parents retired, we were left with zero money. Now, I decided to implement this CFP learnings in my family portfolio. But the difficulty I found that if I went to foreclose the insurance policy, I was told that we will lose the premium amount or we'll have the loss of interest. This was a very difficult decision to take as we had limited money. But I learned a very different concept, and that concept was that if your 100 rupees falls by 50%, to go back to 100, it's not just about 50 rupees, it's about 100% growth. And therefore, the question I asked myself that which asset class will help us recover the money back to 100 and also in terms of grow over the inflation in the longer term. And the answer came in equities. And therefore, one of the things which I did first is to buy a term cover for myself, and I took a decision to close all the investments, that is LIC policies, post office instruments, and bank AD at a loss. The second concept I learned was that insurance and investment should always kept separate. But in a house, it was all combined. Yeah? The third thing I was introduced to is what's called asset allocation, which means percentage of your money we should have in equities, fixed income, gold, etc. The rule of thumb says 100 minus your age should be the amount of money you should invest into equities. Therefore, now that we decided a family asset allocation, and we decided that we'll start with 30-40% of money into equities. And to our surprise, this is what happens with most investors. The Lehman financial crisis happened and the markets fell. We reallocated our money back into equities. So we deployed the full 100% of our money into equities, and we just got pure lucky. In the subsequent 7 years, the portfolio doubled, rather it tripled in 7 years' time. And what we could do, use the money to buy an additional one room in our building that went for redevelopment, and in 2016, we actually owned a 3-bedroom hall kitchen flat in Villeparle East. And the owning a 3 BHK flat felt surreal. And there were tears in the eyes of my parents when they first entered the house, because we always lived in a very, very small house. My family investments could be the story of many working families in the country. And this can be a great case study for the Gen Z students out here. I'm going to summarize my presentation by 5 actionables for each Gen Z student and family in the auditorium. Number 1, do not trade into stocks directly. And most importantly, never ever try future and options trading. I will share my personal experience. After about 1 year into investment field, I tried my hand into FNO. And with smaller events, I earned about 8 lakh of rupees. But then I got confident and I traded into one large private sector bank. And would you believe it? I lost 14 lakh of rupees in that transaction, in FNO transaction, which means I had to put 6 lakhs from my own house to be able to recover or close that transaction. That day I promised myself that I will never trade into FNO. And from that day till today, no matter what, I can earn 1 crore or 5 crore or 10 crores, I have not traded FNO. So my request to all the Gen Z students out here is that make a promise that do not trade into FNO. And I want to share further my life learning. It says, learn from other people's success and failures. Life is too short to learn everything yourself. Do not develop an ego or an overconfidence that it was Nimesh who didn't know how to trade and I'll trade it differently. If anyone who feels like that in this auditorium, let me share the SEBI data. The SEBI data suggests 9 out of 10 traders in equity FNO segment have made negative net losses. The second actionable for all the students here is do not invest on your own. Identify a financial advisor for your family investments. An independent financial advisor can bring in rationality and remove the emotionality from the family investments. Ideally, you should never ever invest on your own, but for all the students, at least for the first 10 years, never try investing. Now let me give an example. Just suppose someone in your family needs to go through orthopedic surgery. What we would all do? We would go and identify 3 or 4 orthopedic doctors and evaluate them on the basis of their experience, their track record, their availability, the hospitals, etc., right? Similarly, when it comes to investing, you must identify a financial advisor, but do not try on your own. The third actionable is finalize your asset allocation based on the needs, wants, and risk profile of the family. After you have done that, I request all the Gen Z students to put their money, lump sum or an SIP, into equity mutual fund for the next 20 years. Let the 8th wonder of the world, power of compounding, work in your favor. As shared earlier, keep the investments and insurance separate. Please make sure that there is enough medical and health cover for everyone in the family. Now, there is one interesting thing which I will tell you about life insurance cover. The earlier you start investing, the premium amount is the same for the entire tenor. So just suppose you start at 21. The premium will be very small. The good part is that the same premium will be there till the end of the tenor, which is the 75 years or 80 years, as per the policy of the insurance companies. And therefore, I request, as soon as you start earning income, buy a term cover for yourself. The fourth actionable is, and I can't overemphasize to everyone here, please focus on the purchasing power of money. That is, returns in your hand post-inflation. Yeah? In my experience, for the wealthy, because their incomes are growing much faster than the needs and want, nobody focuses on the purchasing power of money. And for all the other fellow Indians, because they don't have the knowledge or awareness or experience like my parents didn't have, they don't focus on the purchasing power of money. I request everyone who's present in the auditorium to go back and check what percentage of their money is beating inflation. And do not consider the government published inflation rate. You have to identify the inflation number which is different for your own family. And I can tell you, without even knowing it, it will be multiple times what published by the government. The fifth actionable, the last but not the least, along with completing your graduation and post-graduation, plant a seed of change by enrolling yourself into an investment course, could be a CFP, could be a CWM, could be any course in life, to understand the accounting, finance, and investments. Please take responsibility after family investments from now, and do not procrastinate learning and investing. The earlier you start, the better are your possibility to create a fortune for yourself. I think everyone in the auditorium feel and wish that I knew this, and they have lost on the last 20 years, right? And therefore, I would like to conclude my talk by this quote. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today. Similarly, the best time to invest was 20 years ago, and the second best time is today, because that is, you have got aware today. And let me share with a lot of conviction that we all should be proud to be an Indian and in a position to invest at a time when the best 20 years of India's growth and wealth creation are ahead of us. Thank you, and best wishes, happy investing to all the Gen Z students out here. Thanks.